just remind you, my shit is just a little bit out of bounds in this motherfucker, you feel me? Yeah.
Welcome to another episode of Studies in the Fifth Dimension. Today we're dealing with the Matrix 4 Decoded. Here's the shit.
It was alright as far
as movies go. It wasn't, anything that I'm going to be praising too much, because it kind of lost its soul along the way. But, there's definitely room for them to create more content and, do more with the Matrix. But we'll get into it just because the symbols at this time were very prevalent. And what I've noticed is that sometimes when movies come out, they will do, like two movies that are like closely related to each other, and will come out like back to back, but it'll seem like they have nothing to do with each other. And I'll bring out a list of those movies and comparisons along the way, but we'll break down the Matrix 4 Decoded, and then we'll break down the symbols that are related to these different shows and movies and things of that nature, that either shows that everyone in Hollywood is an occultist and is on the frequency in some form or fashion, or there's an AI writing all these goddamn scripts. It's either or, because there's too much of a uniformity to what's going on here, So let's go ahead and go into the Matrix 4. I went and got some cool pictures and shit. I just wanted to show how code could be used to create an entire reality, and how our entire reality is composed of code, or atoms and protons and neutrons and things of that nature, DNA. It's all code. And so when we deal with this, from a higher perspective, from an energy perspective, like I said, it's all code. Shit, even Elon Musk said that shit, which was actually very interesting. Because that's some genius type of thinking. I do like this picture though. This was like the first fucking Matrix when the shit first fucking came out, and it was like cool. Back when Neo was doing his thing, motherfucker was hitting the little backs and shit. That was the shit. That was definitely the shit. Alright, let's go ahead and get to this lecture. So I went ahead and took some pictures from the actual poster boards from the movie, which just shows that this is a hologram, this is a simulation, waveform, a very complex waveform, okay? And that's all that they're showing here. Okay, now, if you haven't watched the movie, this is definitely going to be a spoiler, but in the movie, Morpheus is dead. It's like 60 years in the future, and the Neo is trying to escape the Matrix for a second time, or he's been in there a lot, but he's trying to escape the Matrix again, because the Matrix has a hold of his mind. So what he does is he creates a program using old Matrix code of a game, in which he turns the Matrix, his own story, into a game. So he used old code from his old video game and creates a program that he calls Morpheus, in which he turns him into an agent, and then that agent awakens and begins to see the code, right? And so when we deal with this from a higher perspective, this is, very radical, because it goes exactly with what the fuck I've just lectured. It was like I had the lecture, and then bam, the Matrix came and just explained everything. It was just lovely. It was like I didn't have to try. So if you see the movie, they figured out how to, take the, create like an exoskeleton of the programs, so to speak. So, when you think about this from a higher perspective, when you die, you have the body, you have the spirit, and you have the soul. The soul is immortal, okay? The spirit is residing on the fourth dimension in the astral planes and requires sustenance, just like any being that resides in the fourth dimension. They require energy, they require light, they require your energy and attention to remember them and things of that nature. So, you can work with these deities, or you can work with your ancestors in that way. by creating altars for them, by, you know, setting up a picture, putting up their favorite drink or favorite food or something like that, and creating a relationship with them like it's real. You know, you can do that. You can talk to them. You can deal with them, get information, get help. You know, because essentially it's just a program. You know, it's just a you know, that leftover part of the personality that was that entire person, the entire scope of their experience encapsulated in, you know, who they were as this fourth dimensional spiritual astral being, you know. And so when you deal with how they did Morpheus, the entire movie was just assisting Neo to escape the Matrix, and just assisting Neo in every way that he could. You know what I mean? And they told the story actually of what happened to the original Morpheus, who died during some type of conflict that happened with Zion, we presume, right? So, and it was pretty cool. He came in with the orange suit. Not even gonna lie. I mean, the writing was cool, but it was kind of corny. I'm not even gonna lie. But his suits was fly as fuck. Motherfucker had some suede shit that he pulled out. I was like, I can't lie. That shit's kind of knocking. But, you know, he represents a tutelary spirit, or you know, ancestral spirit. I actually like these pictures. They're pretty fly though, with the waveforms and shit like that. This is the only one in Neo I could find, but I couldn't find them split up. So it was alright. But he kind of getting fat and old, and I figured he was done with that. I don't think he's going to be in the next one. I don't think him and Trinity are going to be in the next one. Maybe. We'll see. If they make the next one. Now, this was the analyst. Really, I use this to be able to show you all the characters, because I'm going to do a lot of explanation, but this is the analyst. The analyst himself represents time. Now, the whole thing about the Matrix is that Neo, you know, first started out in the coffee house, you know what I'm saying? And, you know, then he met Trinity, and, you know, he was going through this loop and shit like that, and these cats he was stuck, you know, taking that blue pill and shit like that, going to the analyst every day. The analyst represents time. He had full control of time in the Matrix and was able to stop it, slow it down, and, you know what I mean, move around him and everything. But once they conquered him, you know, once they conquered time, they were able to tap in fully with their powers and things of that nature. So, you know, we'll go a little bit in on the symbols. Now, the machines have to keep Neo and Trinity suffering in order to keep the system going. They have to keep what they want the most just out of reach. Okay, they have to keep them in a state of separation, state of individuality is what that represents. Okay, because them coming together, being that now it's not just Neo that is the one, it is both him and his love that is the one. You know, they come together, and in that state they become the one. You know what I'm saying? But that just represents going to the fifth dimension, going to a state where you are oneness. Because the whole point to this journey is, you know, like I said, I thought that in the beginning when I was, you know, receiving the prophecy, I thought that this was about me, you know, but it's actually about me and the goddess, you know, the journey that we take together to become one beyond the physical. So not just to become, we are one beyond the physical, me and the goddess, which is really cool to see and really cool to, you know, experience within our own being, you know, to be able to be these two different beings in separation, and then to be able to come together doing tantra and things of that nature and live out that oneness, experience that oneness in physicality. It's a beautiful thing. And so when you relate this to, you know, what we're seeing on screen, the time period that we're in, you know, is that time of mastery, that time of ascendance. And this is the flavor right now. It's tantra, it's sex, it's, you know, sex and death, you know what I'm saying? And that's a whole hip hop thing. You know what I'm saying? That's a whole hip hop world that we created, and a whole culture that we really revolve around, which, you know, we can go deeper into hip hop culture, but we'll go ahead and keep dealing with the Matrix and shit. So, you know, now the way to shut down the melanin, you know, is to keep you in a constant loop. That is the best way to keep you stagnant, to keep you thinking with your human mind, you know. And he was running the rat race and shit every fucking day, taking the motherfucking pills, making the choice to not free himself, not free his mind, when indeed he already knows this reality is not real, you know. And so that just represents, you know, him being kept in the loop, not having access to higher thought, you know, being trapped in by the demiurges, which, it's funny, demiurges, your desires and things of that nature, as human desires, having to come back for another lifetime and reawaken in this lifetime. So, you know, they keep Neo and Trinity suffering in a state of separation in order to keep the system going. They have to keep what he wants most just out of reach, because if they come together, they destroy the power structure's hold on the mind of the people, which, like I said, represents going from individuality to oneness. Now, this is the same as that show Loki. Okay, if you fuck with, what is it, Disney Plus, I bootleg all that shit. So, which is the same as Loki and the female Loki. Okay, they come together and they destroy the central timeline. Okay, and they go beyond time to the fifth dimension and kill the one being who controls the timeline. Now, this is the scene at the end of the new Matrix, just like the scene in Loki where they go and they kill the one being, and then it creates all these different timelines and all this destruction. This is the scene where at the end of the movie, they fucking the analyst up and broke the nigga jaw, and they already went behind time and fucked his ass up and shit like that. They're like, we just gonna do whatever the fuck we want. Paint the sky with rainbows and shit. You know what I mean? So, what I'm saying is that they're following a closely related story. And the way that I know that Hollywood would have to be all occultists in order to be able to tell these stories simultaneously in such a uniformity is because it was given to me by the goddess before I was able to meet, you know, the goddess in the physical. You know what I'm saying? I was dealing with Kali, and, you know, I received a prophecy over a series of 2 weeks. You know, I was, you know, meditating, going to a higher state, and you know, for the first time it became real for me. You know, it was one of those things where you know, it's what I needed to start myself out in my training, and, you know, dealing with the prophecy is what helped me get to a higher state, because simply what it was telling me, you know, what she was giving me was a pathway to get to a higher state of mind, and giving me the symbols in a way that I could understand. And so, when you deal with this is the new pathway to a higher state in this matrix, and that's what we're dealing with. Okay, the prophecy, or the, you know, the pathway that one takes to become a god. You know what I'm saying? But this was bestowed to me, and I live this in my everyday life. You know, and then now I see the same symbols arranged in a particular format on screen, in which I can point out in great detail. And so, you know, not only do we see this in Loki, you know, we also see this in the new Spider-Man. Okay, and I also have notes on that, which I could do an entirely different lecture on the Spider-Man, because the Matrix 4, you know, him and his love get together, and they actually break out of the Matrix, and they have power to do whatever the fuck they want. In the new Spider-Man, whereas all the timelines are breaking up, and, you know, Spider-Man has to save the world, he has to go with the power structure. So instead of, you know, allowing this power structure to, you know, crumble and be destroyed, Spider-Man's going to save the world, right? So what does he do? Instead of allowing all these different timelines to converge, and, you know, because what he was doing, he was helping people. He was helping all the bad guys to, and even his other selves to, through their trauma. You know what I'm saying? And that's what he was supposed to do. You know, that is what the game is. That is what the time is right now. We are supposed to go to a higher state of mind and help people work through their trauma, help people work through that shit that traps them in the fourth dimension, that blocks them from getting to this bliss, that blocks them from getting to heaven. Help them work through that shit so that they can go, to the fifth dimension, that they can go past this human experience. Okay? Or else you just be trapped in this shit. You come back as a baby, you don't know shit, and you gotta relearn shit. And then after you done relearn the shit, you know what I'm saying, you just suffer. Like, it's a lot of shit down here that just, when you look at it from a particular perspective, it doesn't make sense. Except for slavery. Anyways, so let's keep going. Now, when Neo was being trapped and tortured, everything down to the people in his life represent his prison cell. Okay, and he had to go beyond that to awaken his mind. He had to disconnect from everything that he knew, everything that was familiar to him that brought him comfort, to be able to go beyond. Now, Smith, which I didn't get a picture of him, they got him a new face and shit like that. He young and cool with the glasses and shit. But Smith represents ignorance, okay? And you can see that from the first initial scene when he had the smokes. And then he was like, I just stopped calling this shit a habit. You know what I'm saying? It's just, fuck it. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna be ignorant about this shit. I don't care if it kills me. You know what I mean? Like that type of shit. Like very ignorant type of personality. Very narcissistic type of personality. And then again, he also takes over everybody's mind, and it takes them to an animalistic standpoint. You know what I'm saying? The swarm is what they call it. The bug brain is what you're dealing with at that one point. And once Neo conquers Smith or conquers ignorance, he can fly. And so we deal with that. Now let's deal with the machines. Okay, so the machines can live in a form of pure sentience, and they can also operate as spirits. Like they operate outside of the Matrix. They live as pure sentience. Inside the Matrix, they can take on form, but they're just programs and things of that nature. So what this is comparison to is when I was talking to you motherfuckers about the archons, Zeus and them, the planetary spirits, demons and shit like that. These motherfuckers are just programs. If you can understand it in that way, that the spirit world, the same creators of the Matrix, if you take the Matrix as the physical world, the creators of the Matrix would be the machines. Okay, the machines would be these spirits, these different, Zeus and them, these different deities and things of that nature that run this motherfucker, that feed off of your ass, the demiurges. You get what I'm saying? And so when you look at it, the fucking machines, when they are not in the Matrix, they don't got legs. They don't have form like humans have form. They operate like spirits. They fucking fly. Like they're swimming in water. You get what I'm saying? When you go to the fifth dimension, and when you're at a state of pure consciousness, you're not operating in form. You're operating in a state of pure sentience, and you're swimming in that shit like water. It's light. You're pure light, and you're moving around in this world. You're going through these different things, and it's like you're a fish. Is the only way that I can explain it. But you're pure light amongst a more how do you say it? Less dense, more refined version of water. That's what we're dealing with, because hydrogen is only light anyways. So when we deal with that, yeah. So, like I said, none of them have humanoid structures. They're more like aquatic beings swimming in a type of water, like the beings of the fifth dimension. Pure sentience, pure consciousness is what we're dealing with in the Matrix and shit. And now we get into the cool shit, because if you remember the last lecture where I was talking about quantum computing, and in there I took a part where I was like, hey niggas, the ancestors had this shit like a whole fucking virtual world where they could interact with the virtual world or the fourth dimension. Like, you get what I'm saying? Like, niggas was about to be able to interact with the fucking virtual world here in a minute, having a fucking, implant or some shit in your eye. But either way, motherfuckers is gonna be in the physical reality interacting with the virtual world. Now, if you want to see what the fuck I'm talking about, go look up the new video on Meta. Meta is the new shit. And I had a lecture on this shit, and then what happened? They had the commercial, nigga, like the next week, nigga. Like, I'm on it. I'm on it. The spirit got me on it. So what I'm telling you is just that, like, everything that I'm telling you is not a falsity. We're in this shit right now. Okay, we are not like, it's not like, oh, this shit is 20 years down the road. No, nigga, we are in this shit right now. We are about to get, nigga, y'all about to get uploaded to the new version of the Matrix, my nigga. This is what the fuck is going on. Niggas is about to get, like, this is slavery fucking 4.0, my nigga. Like, this is how you gotta really understand this shit. You have no privacy anymore. You can't be you. You can't be an individual. You're no longer gonna be connected to the fucking network of consciousness, nigga. You are gonna be connected to the fucking virtual network and be a slave. You get what I'm saying? Even though I'm talking about going to a level of pure consciousness and away from the individuality, the technology replicates that, but it's meant to cap you and keep you at a level where motherfuckers can control you. You know what I'm saying? This is the fucked up shit that we're getting into, you know. But I digress, okay? Because I could rant about this shit all day, but you gotta save your motherfucking self. Anyways, so these tutelary deities, all right, these spirits, we can interact with them just like they were doing with the programs. Just like Neo was dealing with Morpheus, we can interact with our ancestors in that same way and get assistance from them. We can interact with these different spirits and these different programs, or these different spirits or so-called demons or daemons or jinn, and fucking get assistance. Get help in our fucking suffering down here on planet Earth, nigga. That's the thing. You know, like I said, I digress. The whole thing about the idea of the Matrix, which was revolutionary, and once again, it was written by a black woman. It was written by a sister. You know what I'm saying? You gotta look up the original fucking books and shit like that. That's the reason that the new shit ain't really got the flavor like the old shit, because it was a sister who was writing the shit, who wrote the entire first book or first 2 or 3 books. I do not remember if it was the first 2 or 3 books, because I just remember there being one Matrix book. I don't remember her putting out multiple books, but I do remember her having that first Matrix book, and she sued them motherfuckers for them stealing her shit, okay? Because, like I said, it was a sister who wrote it. It had soul. This shit was a spiritual channel that came from something that was beyond. So when you deal with the Matrix, you're not just dealing with something that is just a movie, that is just ideas. This is something that is giving you the view of your reality from a perspective of a video game, which I've been doing this entire time. Telling you about the fifth dimension in the way of this physicality being more like a simulation, being more like a program, being more like a video game. Okay. Now, move on. The Matrix and physical world aren't necessarily separate. I don't know what that was. It's an extension of the Matrix, but it's where people who are conscious reside, and it represents a state of mind. So IO only represents a state of mind, the state of mind of conscious people who can see beyond the Matrix and can see that this shit is fucked up. You know, that's what IO represents. Because what did old fucking Miss Smith, Will Smith wife, with her old ass in the movie, what did she say? She was like, Zion was stuck in a matrix of its own. They were still a part of the Matrix, even though they were in, the physical world apart from the Matrix. It wasn't apart from the Matrix, because they still were slaves basically to the fucking robots. They couldn't do nothing. They can't do nothing. If the motherfucking robots wanted to come there right now and kill all them motherfuckers, they couldn't stop them. They lived in constant fear of war and terror, and had to go in the Matrix to free more minds. They were stuck in the Matrix even when they were outside of the Matrix. So all that Zion and it only represents an extension of the Matrix, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they are totally beyond that, is all I'm saying, is what they represent. So, also, I haven't told you guys the whole prophecy because I'm writing a book. So, I can't give everything out for free. Not even just like for free. It's just that I can't give just everything out. Like, I gotta put that in the book. So niggas, if niggas want the whole prophecy and the understanding of that shit, you gonna have to get the book when it's finished. I'm not even gonna lie to you. But I'm gonna give you snippets in all these lectures because I'm giving out free game, nigga. I'm giving out free bread, you know what I'm saying, for niggas to feed off of, so you can motherfucking open up your mind if you so choose. Like you can really gobble this shit up, you know what I'm saying? But so the part of the prophecy that I'm talking about is when you deal with it, the goddess is awakened, her mind is awakened by the transformation of the God, by the God awakening his mind, and her witnessing that she becomes the goddess Kali. This is the prophecy, you know. In the movie, the way that they account for this, because it is always supposed to be the goddess who, in her human form, awakens the God, and witnessing that transformation. Witnessing the transformation of, you know, the God raising into his power, she transforms and her mind awakens and they raise to that level together. And the way that they account for this, because it's two different people, you have Trinity and you have the blue-haired girl, this girl right here. Where's she at? This girl right here, who's really important, who might be, you know, very important if they have another one. We'll see. But the whole thing about it is, they trade places. So when Trinity is being unplugged from the Matrix, essentially, they're doing like a bypass type of thing. They have her take Trinity's place for a second, and so that just represents the goddess awakening within her, because they're fighting you know, in each other's stance, and then she awakens, and after she, you know, disconnects Trinity from the Matrix, her power opens up. Her power awakens. Trinity's power awakens right the fuck after that. She start whooping ass, nigga. Start kicking ass and taking names. You know, she was real cool, real pivotal in that shit. Trinity was looking hella old. I ain't gonna lie to you. She was kind of sagging under there, but you know, that's neither here nor there. So, you know, back to the little Matrix picture and shit, because I was really fucking with that. But, you know, the whole thing about that shit is just that when you deal with, you know, like I said, occultists, they put little things in there like that. Just like I said, they do two different movies where they will separate the, you know, the themes. The themes will be the same, but it will be the opposite. You know, like Matrix and Spider-Man. And Spider-Man, like I said, this shit is like, it's so little, you wouldn't notice it. But when I point it out to you, and you go back and watch the movies again, you'll notice it. At the beginning of Matrix, what happens? Neo is in the coffee shop. Hear me out. Neo is in the coffee shop, and he sees Trinity from afar and doesn't want to go talk to her. But then the homeboy makes him go talk to Trinity, right? What happens at the end of Spider-Man? Because Neo doesn't, you know, he's just within reach of Trinity, but not close enough for them to do anything, for them to get together to be, you know, in love and shit like that. So what happens at the end of Spider-Man? Spider-Man walks into a coffee shop. He walks into a coffee shop, right? He sees Mary Jane and does not speak to her, and goes back to his loop, goes back to his over and over again with his girl right within his reach, with what he wants the most right within his reach, and he can't fucking have it because he erased his memory out of everybody's mind. So what I'm telling you is, at this point, they did two different movies with the same fucking theme that they mastered in different or, you know, it's the same symbol, same theme with the symbols and things. Sorry, different themes, same symbols. Thank you. Different themes, same symbols, you know, but they have the time, you know, the different timelines. They have the, you know, God awakening to his power and accepting who he is and things of that nature, taking the calling. But instead of, you know, falling in love with the goddess and, you know, being one with the goddess, he stays in a state of separation, stays in a state of individuality, goes back to just being to that normal path that Spider-Man takes, and you know what I'm saying, like, and does not work out his trauma in this lifetime, even though he helped everybody else work through their trauma. And if he would have stayed on that path, this probably would have been the last lifetime for him. He probably would have ascended and things of that nature, and been able to help all these other villains and help all these other people through their trauma and help them get past that. But no, he did the opposite. Instead of allowing the timelines to converge, going beyond time, he kept everything normal. He kept normality. And that was the opposite ritual. Now, I promised you that I was going to go and I was going to show you some shit. So let me go to my notes, because I'm going to explain to you how certain movies can be used as advertising for other movies, or how two movies can come out with the same themes but be two separate movies but still be connected in the themes, in the central point of the theme. So let me go. Alright, so this is my personal notes, okay? Which, I mean, everything is pretty much me. So, did anybody watch Dune? Put it in the comments. If you did watch it, did you like it? You know. And is anybody watching the new Boba Fett show? If you are, put it in the comments. Let me know if you're fucking with it. I don't really have too many feelings towards, Boba Fett. It's cool. I don't like it as much as I like the Mandalorian. Period. If y'all fuck with it, I don't know. But Dune was the shit. Fuck with Dune. If you ain't seen it, go watch it. This shit was hard. I don't want to ruin it for you. I'm gonna ruin some of it. But if you watch the movie, okay, then the motherfucker could see the future. They were battling over spice. At the end of the movie, he gets with Zendaya, who's in the SPIDERMAN movie once again. He gets with Zendaya, okay, and then they're going together on this journey through the desert, which is just so funny that I come to the desert and I'm getting with my goddess, you know what I'm saying, and we got to go on this journey together in the desert. It made me laugh when I was watching the movie, because it was just so many similar things. But what I'm doing right now is showing you a comparison between Dune and Boba Fett, and then I'm going to show you a comparison between two other movies. So Dune and the Book of Boba Fett are similar in story. Both are about, start with the desert people. And sorry, the notes in my shit do autocorrect, and so some of the words be fucked up, but I know what the fuck I'm saying, so I'll spell it out if I need to. So, they both start with the desert people, the Tono Odo Ham. Okay, and the reason I'm saying Tono Odo Ham is because the people in the desert out here, when I'm dealing with, once again, this is my journey, I'm dealing with the desert people. I'm dealing with the desert gods. The other day, I was sitting down and I was doing a meditation, and the gods contacted me when I had my altar set up. The gods contacted me, the gods of the desert, and what I kept seeing was this mockingbird. And come to find out, there is a mockingbird deity that is the god of the storms and the rain out here, which I'm going to do further research into and deal more with getting in contact with, that deity, And so the Total Odaham, which just means the desert people, And so in the Book of Boba Fett, he says that they need to stop spice production, and that this is the Dune Sea. Okay, he says it in the second episode of fucking the Boba Fett show. He says this is the Dune Sea, and we need to stop spice production. In the Dune movie, the movie is called Dune. First off, the whole thing is about stopping the production of spice. The whole movie is about stopping the production of spice. That's why I'm saying these movies are similar, and they're using this story of Boba Fett to pretty much either use it for advertising, you know what I'm saying, for the next Dune movie, telling you what's going to happen in the next Dune movie, because it follows the exact same story. Because what happens is he becomes part of these desert people, right? And once he goes to the desert people, he starts to learn their ways, all right? And the same shit happens in fucking the Book of Boba Fett. And so, since it's a show, they're able to tell more of the story. He learns the ways of the desert people. He's accepted as one of the people. Same thing that happens in the Dune movie. He's given a weapon and taught to fight. I'm pretty sure that's what's going to happen in the second movie, even though in the first movie he was already given a sword and he was taught to fight. He connects with the spiritual side of the culture. Okay, they haven't done that in the first Dune movie, but like I'm saying, this is what it's leading up to. Him connecting with what they called their god, which was these worms. I'm guessing they go to a higher level with the spice and connect with these worms on a higher level. And so, when his weapon is gifted to him by, their god, and this is in the Book of Boba Fett. In the Book of Boba Fett, he goes through all this training, and then the nigga has to go to this to the desert, and they put this fucking lizard up his nose, and he does he does this trip. He goes on a trip pretty much, and he goes to the fourth dimension, gets this tree, breaks a limb off the tree, walks to the desert for a couple of days, and comes back with the tree. They like, let me see the tree, da 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 da, and the weapon is gifted to him, through this vision. And all the similarities will make themselves apparent in the next movies. So now we're gonna move on. They do interesting styles, like make two movies that seemingly have no connection, but their roots to each other are, it's more like a sequel. It seems like it's a sequel, or more like an anthology series exploring different pathways that a single storyline could take. For example, Interstellar and The Martian are prime examples of what I am talking about. In one, a man sets out to save a dying world by going into a wormhole and traveling to a distant planet, or traveling to a distant, star system to find a planet that could sustain life. I'm pretty sure that's what I said, right? That is Interstellar, okay, with Matthew McConaughey. And if you look at Interstellar, most of the same characters in Interstellar are in The Martian, and they came out a couple months from each other. Like, one came out in 2014, the other one came out in 2015. One is blue, I see the other is red. One represents feminine energy, one represents masculine energy. And the other one, in The Martian, a man is stranded on a dead planet, and the world comes together to save him. Okay, this one focuses on survival, less on consciousness. It focuses on the male element. Interstellar is a movie dealing with quantum consciousness. This nigga goes into a black hole. Matthew McConaughey goes into a black hole and is able to see all of his fucking memories. When I go to a quantum state and I'm able to go beyond time, I have access to all of my memories. I have access to any point in time that I focus on. The best times for me to go when you're traveling to the future and things of that nature, and traveling to the past, is only to go when you're at a higher state. Why? Because if you go when you're at a regular conscious state, nigga, you ain't listening to your higher self most of the time when you're in a conscious state, if you're not on conscious shit. But if you're at a higher state, most of the time, and you go back and forth to the future, you have more control. Click. Genius. Anyways, Interstellar deals with that. It deals with quantum consciousness, explaining what we have access to beyond time, dealing with the genuine element of light, higher senses and perception, understanding, and time. Okay? So these are two examples of movies that are pairs of one another, based on the storyline being different pathways that one can take, or being a prequel to Interstellar, because when Matthew McConaughey leaves, his daughter becomes this, crazy fucking astronaut that saves the world. And so this may just be telling a story about, his daughter, maybe. But I have another example. So Logan, in the movie called Bloodfather with Mel Gibson, okay, which have the same exact plots. Logan, he's going to go find his daughter, rescue his daughter from some fucked up people, and then he dies at the end. I don't know if he dies at the end of Blood. Yes, he does die at the end of Bloodfather. Same exact plot. So he dies at the end. Bloodfather, Mel Gibson, shitty father, fucked off with his daughter, found out his daughter got fucked off, got in with some bad people, goes and rescues his daughter from the bad people, dies for his daughter at the end. They have the exact same plots. Bloodfather came out before Logan. It was a low budget film. It didn't go to theaters. Logan Like it was crazy, and it was just like watching the movie, and you're like, these are the same fucking. They have the same. These are the same movies. They're the same exact symbols and everything. They did the exact same thing. It's just one was serious, the other one was mutants. One was dealing with powers and shit. In time, it was dealing with time. Okay. And so we have instances of movies connecting in such a way that one can be used for the advertising of another based on its characters and plots. It's like feeding the excitement. It's not the movie, but it makes you want to see the real thing, you know. So we have examples of what I'm talking about, where movies totally that seem totally unrelated actually connect through the central symbols and the themes that are in the fucking movies. Okay? I'm giving you clear-cut fucking examples. And so with the Boba Fett series, it's an expanded story. It may need to draw from Zachariah Stitchen. That may be what it is. They may had to have drawn from Zachariah Stitchen's work to give you a Boba Fett story. Maybe. But yet and still, it's in there. So it's totally fucking not even, we know it because it's there. Like, I've already explained it to you. It's there. Like, it's fucking there. Just look at the symbols. Go watch the fucking movies again. You know, you'll see all this shit. But key phrases and themes, you know. And as with the Matrix and Spider-Man, they both have key themes and are similar in a way that it shows communication. Or, once again, a uniformity to these movies. Okay? Either there's an AI that is writing the scripts, or all of Hollywood is an occultist, or it could be both. It could be that all of Hollywood are occultists and they have AIs, or an AI writing all these scripts. It could be both. Like, I'm not for sure. I don't know. But what I'm saying is that when you look into what the fuck is going on, you can clearly see there is a uniformity to the symbols. There's no difference in the storytelling except for the faces, the scenery, you know, the theme. But the symbols, the underlying symbols and archetypes, thank you, archetypes are the same. Okay? Once again, two movies come back to back and have the same theme with opposite objectives, with the same root story. Timelines converging, the shift averted, normality put back into place. That is a story. Only in the Matrix, Neo deals with his human issues, fights for his woman, breaks the pattern, becomes a one, goes beyond time, and goes beyond normality. Okay, that's the end of my notes. And so, you know, that is, you know, the lecture in a nutshell. But, you know, I wanted to break you guys off with some gems and shit and take you back to that shit, because that shit is cool. This fucking gift. Like, really what I would like you to understand now is how code can be used to create reality. Our reality is formulated by code, okay? In a way that the atoms, you know, vibrating that give us the physical structure are only a vibration of energy. And this encapsulating us in physicality based on, you know, this 4700 hertz, which gives us this physical spectrum, you know, is a prison. And once you tap into the fifth dimension, and once you tap into, you know, the higher, you can see the waveform of creation. You can see the code for what it is. It's not even solid. It's just energy at a higher state. And so, you know, I'm definitely gonna leave it right here, and we'll end the lecture. The sound is probably definitely fucked up, but this is the only way that I can screen share my shit with the phone, you know, until the nigga upgrading this bitch. We working with this technology, so fuck it. But, you know, giving you motherfuckers the cool shit, I really like that. Anyways, this has been another episode of Studies in the Fifth Dimension. Peace.